The world has changed because of what Trump has done. And the American people, including independents and some Republicans, know how bad he is, know how much he's misrepresented, know how he's getting close to getting us in a war. I said, as the walls close in on this man, I'm worried he's going to get us to war in Iran. Unfortunately, I may have been right. The fact of the matter is there's a lot at stake in this election.
A few years later.
My warning to the Ayatollah was that if they continue to move against those troops, we will respond. And he should be prepared. It has nothing to do with Israel.
Looks like we won't be voting for anyone with World War III coming up.
I really don't think Biden has realized that Gen Z is not going to vote for you. You have lost. Like, the Muslim population in the United States is also not going to vote for you. Black people, from the sounds of TikTok and Twitter, are not going to vote for you. Like, you're lost even before your campaign has started. And they kind of panicked a little bit because I saw an article in the New York Times. But you have lost. The way you have dropped the ball on talking about Palestinians and the fact that they hold no value in your eyes. Like, you realize you have lost Gen Z. Like, Gen Z's whole opinion of this whole thing is literally being documented on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. All the generations too, by the way. But like, I don't think the Biden administration has realized that, like, you lost severely. And this is not something you can come back from. This will be something that will be studied in documentaries. They'll be like, how did he drop the ball this bad?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about what I believe is the most fascinating politics that is going on currently on the left and within the Democrat Party, which is this issue of Israel and Palestine. Now, I've been talking about this issue quite a bit for the past few days in regards to the Democrat civil war that is happening over this issue as the far left Gen Z Democrat Party supporters are abandoning Joe Biden. They're turning their backs on the Democrats because of Joe Biden's support for Israel. And I believe personally that this issue is the straw that's going to break the camel's back in regards to Joe Biden's chances of being reelected. I mean, his chances were already pretty slim, but this issue right here legitimately gives Gen Z a reason to not vote for Joe Biden at all, right? Or to not show up and vote on top of all the other reasons in this country in terms of what's going on, to not vote for Joe Biden, because these people, for the most part, they do overwhelmingly support the Palestinian cause. Now, whether you agree with them or not, they're extremely passionate about it. And like all of the political issues that they're passionate about, they are very extreme. They're so extreme that, again, I would classify some of these leftists in regards to the acts that they commit when you're talking about the BLM protests, the Roe v. Wade riots, Antifa. They're domestic extremists. And the left is just learning the hard way that they have been harboring and coddling domestic extremists now that the domestic extremists have turned on them when it comes to this issue of Israel and Palestine.
Governor Hochul visited the campus of Cornell University today after Jewish groups on campus received anti-Semitic threats yesterday. The threats were posted online and specifically named the school's Center for Jewish Living, which now remains under guard by New York State Police. Meanwhile, at Columbia University, Jewish students and advocates claimed today that the school is not doing enough to keep them safe. Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg is near the campus in Morningside Heights and continues our coverage. Lauren.
Well, Liz, so many students attend college and university because they want to grow intellectually. But the students we spoke to here say that the dialogue and the rhetoric here at Columbia has turned into threatening propaganda. And it isn't just during the protests, but they say it is in writing, it is in graffiti. And also one Jewish student here has been assaulted. And yet they say the university simply isn't doing enough to protect its Jewish students and to prevent this from escalating.
I do not feel safe. When someone draws a swastika in a Columbia Law School building, I do not feel safe.
The Columbia administration, by their inaction, has enabled anti-Semitic rhetoric to spread and fester on the Columbia campus and throughout the university.
Meanwhile, Cornell University online threats were made against the Center for Jewish Living over the weekend. Governor Kathy Hochul met with students and the university president today.
If you're going to engage in these harmful actions, hate crimes, breaking our laws, you will be caught and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
The governor also increasing New York State police presence at campuses, but that may not get to the heart of the issue.
I am a Black, Native American, Jewish woman. I know what it is like to be accepted, and I know what it is like to be aggressed on account of my identity. And right now, I am one of those students who feels neither safe nor welcome in her own home.
And our boy, Peter Doocy, aka Deuce Deuce, right? That's my nickname for Peter Doocy. He drops another deuce on Karine Jean-Pierre, the affirmative action press secretary, when he asked her about what the Biden administration thinks about the extremism coming from the left in regards to this issue, because they've been boohoo, whining, and crying about MAGA extremism. And remember, MAGA, according to the left, are bigots, right? They hate everybody, right? Blacks, gays, Jews, right? Anti-Semitic, right? They scream about it all the time. People on the right are anti-Semitic. So again, since you spent all this time talking about people on the right being anti-Semitic, I'm sure you have a whole lot to say about your party supporters who, you know, hey, are currently being accused of being anti-Semitic for espousing extremist beliefs when it comes to this issue of Israel and Palestine. So I want to talk about it. But before I get into it, I just want to be clear with you guys in regards to my views on this conflict. I am praying for peace on both sides. There are Christian, Jews, and Muslims dying in this conflict, and I pray for peace because I think that the loss of innocent lives and civilian lives on both sides are a tragic thing. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and play this clip of Peter Doocy confronting Karine Jean-Pierre with the reverse Uno card. Take a look.
Thank you, Karine. Does President Biden think the anti-Israel protesters in this country are extremists?
What I can say is what we've been very clear about this. When it comes to anti-Semitism, there is no place. We have to make sure that we speak against it very loud and be very clear about that. Remember, what the president decided to, when the president decided to run for president, is what he saw in Charlottesville in 2017, when he saw neo-Nazis marching down the streets of Charlottesville with vile anti-Semitic just hatred. And he was very clear then, and he's very clear now. He's taken actions against this over the past 2 years, and he's continued to be clear. There is no place for this type of vile and despite this kind of rhetoric.
And we hear you guys, though, talk about extremists all the time. It is usually about MAGA extremists. So what about these protesters who are making Jewish students feel unsafe on college campuses? Are they extremists?
I've been very, very clear. We are calling out any form of hate. Any form of hate. It is not acceptable. It should not be acceptable here. And we are going to continue to call that out. And let me be very clear. This is a president that has continued to have that fight in his office, in this administration. You know, when he repealed Trump's Muslim ban on his first day in office, that is something that this president did. He also established an inter-policy committee to counter Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and related forms of bias and discrimination. We have taken this very, very, very seriously, from the president all the way on down.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Karine Jean-Pierre, when confronted with, again, the reverse Uno card here from Peter Doocy, which is that, hey, you boohoo and whine and cry all day about MAGA extremism, right? The bigotry of MAGA extremism. What do you think about these leftists, right? These leftists on these college campuses that are espousing these anti-Israel beliefs that, you know, hey, you can categorize in some cases as extreme rhetoric, to the point where, you know, you have Jewish people on these college campuses that feel like their lives are being put in danger because of some of this rhetoric and some of the things that are going on college campuses across America. And of course, Karine Jean-Pierre, because she doesn't want to criticize the extremists on the left, right? She doesn't want to acknowledge what we all know. She deflects to Trump. Well, Trump this, Trump that, Charlottesville, Trump shot. Like again, why is the default Democrat answer anytime they're asked a question about problems in their party, they got to default to Trump, right? As if Trump has anything to do with what's going on right now, right? Trump has absolutely nothing to do with what is currently happening, right? And what you're seeing happening on these college campuses. Now, with that being said, you do have some people on the left, like ADL chief Jonathan Greenblatt, who is still taking to the mainstream liberal media to sound the alarm on all the anti-Semitism going on college campuses. Take a look.
About what's going to happen to us right here in this country.
Jonathan, you and I spoke for a special that we did last year on growing anti-Semitism in America, and you described the extremism on the right as like a hurricane or a tornado and some kind of event that happens very quickly and you can see it. And the anti-Semitism on the left, more like climate change, which is slow and growing. How would you describe it now? And do you think that this is a left-right issue at this point?
Look, it's clear that the hardened anti-Zionists are from the far left are the photo inverse of the white supremacists from the far right. And I mean, there is no argument anymore that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, that is as plain as day. And to think that extremism only comes from one side of the spectrum is a joke. So when I used to say that the anti-Semitism from the left, Anna, was like climate change, getting worse and worse, and it could create the conditions in which storms could happen, this is that Category 5 hurricane. When Jewish people are being told to avoid kosher dining halls, look, Dana, this is a moment of accountability, not just for universities, which, by the way, are failing the test. This is a moment of accountability for America. No one should think that it is permissible because you don't like policies in the Middle East to threaten violence and incite hate against your Jewish neighbors, your Jewish friends, your Jewish classmates. I have got to say, this is not a moment just for Jews. This is a moment for everyone in America to say, time out. This is totally wrong. And I think, I'm meeting with the Secretary of Education in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm glad what President Biden has said. We're going to hold the administration to account to make sure they're keeping our Jewish kids safe.
Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, so what I find to be so fascinating about this, guys, is the fact that the left ignored the extremism on their side of the aisle, told us that it didn't exist when BLM was committing acts of violence. They were burning down cities, rioting, looting, because they didn't like policing in America, right? They were harboring hate towards police officers. We've had a year in 2022 where more police officers have been shot and killed in the line of duty than we've seen in a long, long, long time. Where were all these people boohoo whining and crying about the hate being harbored towards police and the extremism from the left that was contributing to that? They were silent. Where were all these people on the left, again, when these leftists were attacking women's pregnancy centers and Catholic churches, right? What were all the leftists talking about? Well, these people are too extreme, right? We got to rein in this extreme. Where were all these leftists when Antifa was rioting, looting, destroying parts of Atlanta, Seattle, Portland? Where were all these leftists in the mainstream liberal media so concerned about this violence and destruction? Because the same people that was so passionate about, what happened when Roe v. Wade was overturned, right? To the point where these people were doxing and harassing Supreme Court justice. There was an assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice over that. These are the same people that support Antifa, that were the BLM rioters, right? Where was all this? Where was all this? Now, all of a sudden, they want to check the extremism because the Biden administration has a policy position in the Middle East that they're not going to change, right? They're going to stick with their support for Israel. And now that they've determined that they're going to stick with their support, they're basically now trying to call out the extremism on the left when there was silence and crickets when the extremism on the left was creating hatred towards police officers and white people in this country, right? Or pro-life facilities or churches or Christians, right? When they were harboring hate towards all these other groups, Democrats had no problem with it. They were totally fine with it. They didn't say anything. Crickets. Woo. And if you call it out, they'll tell you it don't exist, right? You're a conspiracy theorist. Antifa's just an idea. Again, it's amazing stuff. It really is. It really blows my mind how all of a sudden now the Democrats are concerned about the extremism on the left. When people on the right have been screaming for the longest time that these people they're radicalized, right? I mean, when you look at the issue of climate change, they're radicals. they're radicals on this issue, okay? They're committing acts of violence, vandalism, destroying things because they think that the world's going to end in 12 years. So it's totally fine when they do it then, but in this situation right here, oh, well, it's too far, right? It's too much. Again, it's amazing how they pick and choose when to care about the extremism on the left. Amazing stuff. But the Democrat Party, because they pick and choose when they care about the extremism on the left, the type of blowback that they're getting is exactly what they created, right? The Democrat Party created this because you allowed these college students to get away with harassing conservatives on campus. Okay, like look what happened with Riley Gaines when she went to campus and she was chased around, assaulted. Nobody in mainstream liberal media cared about Riley Gaines and what she went through because, oh, well, she's a bigot. She's anti-LGBTQ when really she was fighting for women's rights. They didn't give a damn. They excused it. They didn't condemn it. They didn't have anything to say about it. But again, now all of a sudden they got something to say. Now all of a sudden they're realizing that, hey, this is out of control. And that's why I say that this issue right here is going to destroy the Democrat Party. Right? For as much as these people wanted to take a victory lap over the GOP's little Speaker of the House battle, that is nothing compared to what's going on in the Democrat Party right now. This issue right here is going to tank the Democrats in 2024. The longer that this drags on with Israel and, the Gaza Strip, what's happening over there, the more divided the Democrat Party will become. The more likely it becomes that Joe Biden is going to lose in an absolute landslide because there's zero reason for even the far left, even Gen Z, to vote for Biden, right? He better get the forgiving that student loan debt, right? He better pull a rabbit out of a hat or something. Or again, this he's going to lose in a landslide. We're not. Biden. This is going to be the first time in a long time that the Republicans will win the popular vote. The election's not going to be close. But again, this is what the Democrat Party signed up for. Because when people were telling you that, yo, you're letting these college kids get away with too much, like you're harboring, extremism on college campuses, like this is not a good thing. You shouldn't play with this type of stuff. No, they ignored it because they wanted the votes. They coddled these individuals and gave them space to do this type of stuff. They made excuses for it. And now you're seeing something that they created, something that they let get out of control, now is turning on them, and they're in full-blown panic mode. It's an absolute disaster. So, hey, as a third-party observer, I'm just going to sit back and watch because the Democrat Party, again, there is an actual civil war over this issue, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse as long as this conflict drags on. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.